Hey guys! Well, it's my last day of school for the school year, and as I've been feebly attempting to try to clean my room and pack it up, which for a slob and an unorganized person like me, that's a lifelong process, I came upon one of my favorite tools that I use in the art room, and I thought I'd share it with you today. So this bad boy is called a time timer, and I learned about the time timer from blogger Art Teachers Hate Glitter, and she used this in her art room, talked about how she did it, and so I thought I would give it a shot. So a couple of years ago I invested in one. They're not cheap, but they're pretty sturdy, and I've had this one for a couple of years. So let me tell you how I use the time timer and why I love it so much. And by the way, this is not a paid endorsement, although I wish it was, time timer. So anyway, this guy, I use him a couple of times in my room. The very first time I started using him, or when I use him first in my room, is after I give a set of directions. When I'm done giving directions, chatting about the lesson with the kids, I usually give them a little short list of what they have to go shopping for at the store, which is what I call supply gathering. Sometimes when the kids hop up to go to the store, there's some confusion about what to get, or they start chatting, or they forget the steps and the directions, and it's usually just because they're moving now, they're talking with their friends, which is all great, but it can get a little bit loud, and then we lose what we were supposed to be doing. So what I usually do is this: after I'm done giving the directions and the kids repeat the directions back to me, because we do a lot of call and response in here, I set the time timer for 5 minutes, and I say to them, for the next 5 minutes you're to gather your supplies and get started silently. And when the alarm goes off, then they know they can start talking softly with their neighbors, because now at that point they're all settled in at their seats. They've started a little bit. They remember what we just got done chatting about. So it's a great way for them to get started calmly and quietly, and then know, oh, I can now resume chatting with my friends. So that's one way I use it. Another way is this: if I have students who are moving a little bit slowly, who are having troubles getting started or just gazing off into space, I will use this for them, and I'll say, okay, you have 5 minutes to get this part of the process done. And I'll set the timer, and the great thing about the timer is it shows a little piece of pie, and as it's ticking away, the pie gets smaller. So it's great for my visual friends to kind of see how that pie is getting smaller and how they have less and less time. And as you can see, you just push it, you let it go, and it takes care of itself. So that's a great tool to use for my visual friends who are having troubles getting started, or there were too many steps, so I just give them one portion of the step, and that's all they have to accomplish until the timer goes off. Another way I use this tool is this: I didn't used to have hour-long art classes. I always had 30-minute classes. So now that I have hour-long classes with my older students, I will give them a bite-sized bit of directions, and I will say, okay, you have 30 minutes to complete this task. When the timer goes off, regardless of where you are in that process, I take it back. You don't have to be finished. You just have to get started on it. Stop what you're doing. When the timer goes off, that's your signal to come back to the floor and let me give you another set of directions. So that's another way that I use the timer, to kind of break up my class a little bit. So I don't give them all the directions at the start of class. I give it to them in bite sizes, and this helps break up my lesson that way. And then the last way I use this tool is if we are chatting too much, then I will say, okay, we're going to go back to 5 minutes of silence. I'll set the timer. When the timer goes off, you may resume talking, but you're going to have to do it quietly. So the way that I use this guy is silent art class time for 5 minutes. When we first start the class, I set it for 5 minutes so that we have a calm start to every lesson. I use it to break up my lessons so that I'm not giving them a ton of directions at the start, but I can use this tool to remind them to meet me back on the floor for another set of directions that helps break up my lessons. And it's also great for my visual friends who need to see just how much time they have to complete smaller or bite-sized versions of the task. So, the time timer, one of my favorite tools in the art room. Thanks, guys.